Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So in today's video, we'll see a comprehensive tutorial on how to create a sleek and modern timer and stopwatch using Python and Tkinter. So let's get started. So here actually we are going to create dual function application that is going to serve both as a timer and a stopwatch. So let me create main.py my file. Now let's start by importing all the necessary libraries. Import Tkinter as tk from Tkinter. Import ttk. So by starting to import the Tkinter, this is a standard library used for building the GUI in Python. And we are going to import a ttk, which is the theme tk that provides access to the tk themed widget set. So these widgets looks more modern and more customizable than the standard tk widgets. Now let's go on to create our main timer stopwatch class. Timer stopwatch. So here first let me define root. In here we have self.root equal to root self dot root dot title. So here we'll specify the title as timer and stopwatch. Then let's give the geometry. So here I will give 500, 400 cross 500, self dot root configure pg equal to. So let me specify the color, background color. So in here first the self.root equal to root. So this stores the main window object, and second we are going to give a title. So this sets the title of our window to timer and stopwatch. It can be anything that you like to give. And then we have the geometry. So this sets the initial size of our window to 400 pixels wide and 500 pixels tall. And then we have configure. So here we give a background color. So this can be anything. So this sets the background color to a light blue shade. So this is the hex code I'm using and giving our app a modern look. Now let's go and give the styling for the application. So let's now look at how we want to style our application to give a consistent look. Now for that I'm going to add in self.style equal to ttk.style self.style some theme use. So you can use default theme. Then self.style dot configure. Here I'm going to give T frame and the background. Let me set the background to a light blue color shade. So copy this Next, so basically the default frame that here we are using is to create a default theme as our base. Next we have the T frame. So this styles all the TTK frames with our light blue background. Next we are going to create T notebook and T tab. So these are the tabbed interfaces. So next let's create self.style.configure. So one is T notebook, comma, the same background, and next we have the self.style.configure T notebook dot tab. So we give some padding 20, 10. So the font is Arial. Font size is 12. So these style are tabbed interface, setting the background color, padding and the font. Now let's create self.style.map. So here this style.map allows us to change the appearance of the widget based on the state. For example, we slightly darken the buttons when they are clicked. So this gives a sleek look to our application. So next let's add T notebook dot tab. So let's choose the background. Equal to, when it's selected, we change the color to light blue. So let's say this. Next we are going to add the buttons. So time add button. So self.style.configure time add dot t button, comma, let's choose the font to be Arial, font size to be 12 standard, choose the background to be this color and set the border width as 0. Now, so this T button, this styles are stop and start buttons with a bold font and a bright blue background. So here starting we use a light blue and that's the background that we are using for the entire window, and this button is going to be bright blue in color. Next let's do self.style.map time add dot button choose the background. So here I want to add active, comma, choose this background. Next we are going to similarly style the two buttons, one for adding timing, the other is for starting the timer. So we'll have two buttons, one is time add and the other one is start button. So I'm using a different styling for different background color, foreground, the border width and padding. So I'm using button active. Whenever the button is clicked, I change the color of the button. So next, once this is done, now let's create the tabbed interfaces. To do that, I have to create self.notebook equal to ttk notebook root comma style equal to t notebook self dot pack side expand equal to true comma fill both pad x is set to 20, pad y is set to 20 again. So basically here we create ttk.notebook widget which provides a tabbed interface, and we use the pack method to add it into our main window with expand equal to true, fill equal to both to make it fill the available space. So we also add some padding around it. Now we create two frames widget, one for the timer, another for the stopwatch. So self.timer frame equal to ttk.frame self.notebook style it as tframe and self.notebook.add it to self.timer underscore frame and text is timer. So similarly, let's do the same for our stopwatch. So here we add these two frames to the notebook using notebook add. So specifying the text that should appear at the top of the tabs. So this creates a clean, intuitive interface where user can easily switch between the two timer and stopwatch functions. Now setting up new variables. So to set up the variables, let's create self.total time is 300. So let's start with 5 minutes and then self.timer running is set to false. So what this does is, so first we have the self.total timer. So this stores the current time left on the timer in seconds. We will start with 300, which is 5 minutes. So starting from 5 minutes, it decrements. And then we have the self.timer running to false. So this boolean tracks whether the timer is currently running or paused. Next we have self.stopwatch time equal to 0. So let me call this as total time, this as stopwatch time, and self.stopwatch running equal to false. So here the stopwatch time, this variable tracks the elapsed time on the stopwatch in seconds, and self.stopwatch running is a boolean whether it tracks the stopwatch whether it's running or paused. So these variables will be crucial for managing the state of our application and updating the display. Next we'll go on to set up. Let's move on to set up the timer UI. So for that I have a different method called def setup timer UI. I call it that way. So inside I pass in the self object. Next we have self dot timer time var equal to tk dot string var set the value equal to 5 minutes. Next I have self dot time entry equal to tk dot entry self dot timer underscore frame, and then pass in the text variable equal to self dot time underscore var, and then font to be Arial with a size 72, make it bold, background choose as light blue and the foreground as white. Next we have justify content and this, so foreground, background, justify to center, border and highlight thickness. So here the first string var is to hold a time variable. So this allows us to easily update the displayed time. Start with 5 minutes, and then we create the entry widget to display and allow the user to edit the time. So we style it to be large and bold label, the time running time, and then we have two events that I want to create here. So first self dot time entry. So let's pack this entry in our widget using the pack method. Give the padding to be set to 30. Now let's create two events to this entry. So first event is focus out. So self dot time entry dot bind. So in here I create focus out, comma self dot validate timer input. So this event triggers when the user clicks away from the entry. Another event is called timer entry dot bind. The other one is called return so self dot variable validate timer input. So and this triggers when the user presses enter. So both of these are going to call the self dot validate timer check to validate and update the entered time. Okay, now let's create buttons to adjust the timer. Self dot button underscore frame equal to ttk dot frame self dot timer frame, comma style is going to be a T frame. Self dot timer style equal to. Okay, then let's pack this button frame into the window, add some padding. So here we create a frame to hold our time adjustment button, and let's do a for time text in 30 seconds. Then we'll add 30, or let's create for 60 seconds. We will add 1 minute, or 300 seconds. We will add 5 minutes. Button ttk dot button self dot button frame comma text equal to text command equal to, let's create a lambda function, t equal to time self dot add time pass t and style as sin t time add dot t button, btn dot back side equal to left pad x is 5. So here we use a for loop to create 3 buttons for adding 30 seconds, 1 minute and 5 minutes to the timer. So each button is connected to this add time method by passing the appropriate number of seconds in. Now finally let's add the controls for this to start and pause or reset the timer. So self dot timer control frame equal to ttk dot frame self dot timer frame comma style is t frame self dot timer control frame dot back with the padding in y. Next we have to create for the start timer button. So similarly we create the button for start timer using this, and also for the reset. So this is for the start timer button and for reset timer button. And we create another frame using the toggle timer function and self.reset timer. Whenever the button is clicked, this method is getting called. Now let's set up the stopwatch UI. So for now we have finished the timer UI. Similarly, let's create for the stopwatch set up stopwatch UI self. So in here we create a variable self dot stopwatch where equal to tk dot string. So our timer string where is we set it to 5 minutes, but here we don't want it to start from 5. We're going to create a stopwatch, so we are going to start from 0. And then we have the label. So I made an error. So let's create self.stopwatch underscore label equal to tk dot label self dot stopwatch frame comma text variable equal to self dot stopwatch var. So the font is, I want to set it to same Arial, the bold font to bold, and then let's add the background and foreground. So this bold, I want to give it in the, okay. Now we added the foreground and background. Now let's pack this stopwatch label using the pack method. Next we are going to create the buttons. So first we create the label rather than entry. So for the timer, the user has to enter, so we created the entry field, but for stopwatch we just want to create a label. And then we create the start and pause buttons and the reset button similar to our timer. So I have created it. So we have the stopwatch frame called stopwatch, style as t frame. Then we have the start button and we have the reset button. Now let's create the functionality for all these methods: add time, toggle timer, reset timer, and similarly for this toggle stopwatch and reset stopwatch. So timer functionality, let's look at the methods. For that, first let me create add time method self. So here I'm taking in seconds. So self dot total time. So we add in the seconds. So the add time method is called when the user clicks a time adjustment button. So this adds a specified number of seconds to the self.total time variable. Next we have self.update timer display. So this updates the displayed time and it converts this total time in seconds to a minute seconds format. Now let's code that method. Define update display. In here we are basically updating the display time and it converts this total times in seconds to minutes. So for that I use minutes comma seconds equal to use div mod self dot total time. So let me pass self here. So self dot total time comma 60. Now this is going to be in the time format of seconds and minutes. So let's do this. In here the format as minutes and seconds, and self dot time underscore var dot set this as time format. Now next we have to validate our input time. We just create this, right, the event. So we are going to create that method validate timer input. So this is called when the user finishes editing the time. So it tries to convert the entered time into seconds by updating this total time. Now let's create the method for validate timer input, pass in self and the event in here. So let's use try. So input time equal to self dot timer var dot get method, and then we have minutes comma seconds. So we use map integer input time dot split using this semicolon self dot total time. So we convert minutes times 60 plus seconds, save it to total time, and then self dot update, call the method, and then so we have exception handling value error self dot update temp. So we revert it to the previous time, valid time. So here the validate input except I made a spelling error indentation. So here this validate timer input is basically, this is called when the user is editing the time. So here we are going to update the total time when it's entered in seconds, and we are if there is no time entered, then we are going to revert it to the previous valid input time. Now let's look into the method for starting, pausing and resetting the timer, all these. Now for that, let's create a method first which is called the let me create the toggle timer. So first let's define toggle timer self. So basically this toggle timer is a method which is to start or pause the timer when the user clicks the start pause button. So in here first let me use a if loop, if statement self dot timer running. So if the self dot timer running is boolean false, so it checks for the self dot timer running and then it sets it to false. Then we have self dot start timer button dot config text. And else we have to set the self dot timer running to true, and we have to use self dot start timer button dot config to pause. then self.run timer. So basically this method run timer, this is the core of our timer functionality. So here let me create this function, define run timer, pass the self, if self dot timer underscore running is set to true and self dot total time is greater than 0, so if self dot timer running and self dot total time is greater than 0, then I have to set the total time minus equal to 1, then we update the time display self dot root dot after call the run timer. So basically this self dot total time updates the display and schedules itself to run again in 1 second if the timer is still running. And next we have to create a else self dot timer running set to false, and then self dot start timer button dot config, use the text as this, and self dot total time is greater than equal to 0, self dot time var is set to 0. So basically this is going to display and update the timer and itself is going to set it to 0. Now let's create the reset timer function. So this reset timer is to reset the timer to the initial state, which is 5 minutes. So it's done when the timer running is false, then self dot total time equal to 300, which is resetting to 5 minutes. Self dot update timer display, self dot start timer button to config as this text. Now similarly let's create the methods for the stopwatch. Google stopwatch self if self dot stopwatch running stopwatch running set to false, then we have to start self dot start stopwatch button dot config as this text to display, which is the play button, else self dot stopwatch running set to true, then self dot start stopwatch button dot config and the text is pause, self dot run stopwatch method. Let's define this self this run stopwatch method. If self dot stopwatch running, self dot stopwatch time plus equal to 1, self dot update time display, and add self dot root dot after self dot run stopwatch. Then we have the define update. We copy from this update timer display minutes, seconds. Time format to be in minutes and seconds. Self dot stopwatch var set this time format. Next, finally, we have reset method. So called reset stopwatch self dot stopwatch running set to false, stopwatch time 0, self dot update time, sorry, I made a mistake here, it should be stopwatch display instead of timer display. So this is stopwatch display, update stopwatch display, self dot stopwatch button dot config. It's going to be display text. So basically these methods are used to similarly is the counterpart for the timer, but here we increment the stopwatch time instead of decrementing it because we want the stopwatch to start 0 and start increment. Now let's call the main program. Using the main, so this is our main program. If name equal to main, root dot tk, root equal to tk dot tk, then we call the timer stopwatch class, pass in the root, then root dot main loop. So now let's run the code. Python 3 main.py. Okay, I think Oh, so here I have a something went wrong. I think this should be a variable. So I made a mistake. So let's type this as a variable. Stopwatch. Now let me close the application and try to rerun. Okay. So I have an error in line number 16. So let me go there. Okay, I think I close it here. Okay, let's retry. Still have an error. Check. Okay, okay, this should be time dot where. Oh, here everything is time dot entry. Okay, I think this is toggle timer. So this is also toggle. So let's see what else. Oh, I need to call these methods here. So first self dot setup timer UI, then this is for the timer setup, and next is for the stopwatch setup. Self dot setup stopwatch. Okay, oh, there is a spelling check here. Setup dot stopwatch UI. Think I have no more white highlight, so I think everything should be, this should be time dot where. Okay, yeah, I think let's try to rerun. So yeah, now we have the stopwatch and timer. So here I have two tabs, as I mentioned. One is the timer tab, another one is the stopwatch. So for the timer, the start time is going to be set to 5 minutes. So we can just click the play button. So it starts the timer. Starting from 5 minutes, it decrements. Pause, and you can also reset. So by resetting it goes back again to 5 minutes, and you can also add 30 seconds to this timer. Click start. So it starts from 5 minutes 30 seconds. Stop, clear. You can add 1 minute, so that makes it to 6 minutes. Start, stop, or you can add another 5 minutes, so it makes it to 10 minutes. And you can also try to edit it to 15 minutes or 25 minutes. So you can also make it a editable option. Reset. By resetting, it goes back to 5 minutes. And you can give any number of start time. Now let's go to stopwatch. So stopwatch is simple, just starts from 0, 0. You get to, okay, I have an error. So let me go to line number 146. Okay, I think I have this error, which is stopwatch time. I think now let's rerun this. We close the application again. So let me rerun. Yeah, so let's start the stopwatch. So it starts from 0, starts incrementing. You can stop it and reset, which is the timer tab. Second, we have the stopwatch. So in the timer, we have started from 5 minutes. So click the play button. It starts decrementing from 5 minutes. You can even reset it using the reset button, and you can add 30 seconds or 1 minute, 1 minute or 5 minutes. And you can also enter how much ever time you want to set. So it starts from 15 minutes and starts decrementing, and reset again, it goes back to 5 minutes. Now we have the stopwatch. So stopwatch is just starts from 0, 0. It gets incremented, whereas timer gets decremented. So you have incrementing time, and now pause. If you re-click back, it starts from the same time where it left, and stop, even reset.